And here we are today with 14 soldiers who have died. I know it is on the agenda for Friday. My view would certainly have been that we should have discussed this before, and certainly before we get a briefing. And I think the real question also is, when the President is the Commander-in-Chief, should he not be here today to explain to us on what advice he signed that deployment letter? He's obviously not here today, and I certainly hope that the Minister will also, as part of a briefing, inform this committee on the strength of what information this deployment was extended.
There was another hand. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think as people deployed to Parliament, representing our communities outside there, we have collectively requested for this kind of meeting. It's funny that some of us now are having side shows on what is the standing of the meeting, what is the meeting all about. I think this meeting is a request meeting, it's an extraordinary meeting because of matters concerning the nation. And we've called the Minister. We wanted, last week there was a parade here in the same venue of a meeting that was postponed. And today we start even off and not wanting to understand what is the meeting all about. The meeting is about us getting information so that we protect and be informed as members of these committees, definitely so, the Joint Standing Committee and the Committee of Defense. So we must accept the chair, and actually I want to applaud you for diligently calling this meeting on urgency so that we can get a briefing on what is happening in the DRC. And I think, Chair, that is what we should appreciate, that there's a joint meeting, extraordinary meeting that have been called. You will clarify the rules, what is going to be the rules, but we shouldn't bigger about the push on the issue on what is this meeting all about. We know what the meeting is all about, and I think it's important, it is for national importance that we get this kind of briefings on the urgent matter. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, yes, we know what the meeting is about, and that is to get as much information without compromising intelligence.
And now, we want the President in the meeting to be present here. We're saying that. Are we saying that we must cancel this meeting and wait for the President? And yet, the ministers here with the 2 deputy ministers and the generals, so that we get the information. We don't use the information that we're gathering in the media. This is the briefing session for both committees, an extraordinary meeting. Then you are trying to guide the meeting that we mustn't discuss as if we are in a funeral association meeting. We should be guided by the chairperson, and we're doing that. I think let's carry on with the meeting and get the information that we want here. The country is in tears because it's not for a particular somebody or the minister or the general, whereby we have these soldiers. Any patriotic leader will say that this is a crucial era. Then we need to get that information. Now, I think let us carry on with the meeting and get the information so that we don't depend on the media. Thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable members. We've heard you. The purpose of setting a limit is to ensure that we don't spend, we've spent already 23 minutes of the allocated 3 hours of this meeting discussing issues which have got no relation to the briefing we're here to receive. Now, we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to assist the meeting so that the members can get time. If you want to have a follow-up question, to get that follow-up question. Should we allow each member 30 minutes to ask all his questions or her questions? What will happen? Because the meeting is scheduled to finish at 4. We may wish to be here the whole day, the whole night. Unfortunately, people schedule their programs on the basis of the time allocated to us by Parliament. And this meeting has been allocated 3 hours. At 4, it must end, just as we ensured that the other meeting, which was here prior to this one, had to finish so that we can start ours at 1. Now, if members wish to have an endless amount of time, we will then have to ask Parliament to allow us to have that endless amount of time. Honorable Niehaus and I consulted outside here before this meeting. I'm actually surprised that he's now speaking the way he does, because he even asked me to ensure that the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee doesn't speak for 20 minutes. I ensured that, Mr. Niehaus, as you suggested. But I don't know what has changed. Honorable members, please allow guidance on the matter. We are trying to ensure, so you are right, that if within your 3 minutes you can ask more than 2 questions, it's okay. But limit yourself to that 3 minutes so that we can get the answers. The problem is, we also don't want to ask many questions such that the department cannot answer those questions. And then we go out of here dissatisfied, and the public that is interested in this meeting does not get the answers that satisfy them. The issues we are here to discuss, as you've all put it correctly, are very serious. Let us take them as such. And we will try to ensure that you do have time for follow-up questions or additional questions should the opportunity arise. I don't think we need to get worked up before we get the briefing that we are here to get. I suggest that we get down to the briefing. And then the question that was asked in relation to the deployment letters, I'm sure that the department will try to answer that question. I do not know whether the legal opinion was obtained as was instructed by the 6th Parliament Committee. We will also ascertain that. But all of these issues, honorable members, that you are raising should not preclude us from having this meeting to go ahead. Let us calm down. Let us get the briefing. There is public interest on the matter. The public interest is not on our internal issues as the committee. Those issues we can deal with in our regular meetings. But for today, and given the public interest on the issue of our soldiers in the DRC, let us get this briefing and discuss that matter as much as we are able to. And that is why we indicated here earlier that should there be a need, we can then reconvene a closed meeting, which can have further time for further discussions on issues which cannot be responded through a public in a public meeting. I want to request, honourable members, that in all our calmness, we allow the report to be presented to us, and we proceed and discuss the issue at hand, which is the agenda of this meeting. We will try our best to manage the meeting such that everybody gets time to speak. Because, you know, one of the things we do not want is for even the department to have only 30 minutes remaining to answer all the questions that we might have asked. So let's get the department to respond. To present, Honourable Minister. I invite you. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Chair. And let me also acknowledge the Chair, the Dakota, and also the Pala, but also acknowledge members of the committee. And thank you most sincerely, Chair, for the opportunity to come and do this briefing. Because indeed, it's a very grave situation, and I think we appreciate the opportunity to also come and brief the committee, and are happy that you also have invited the media to make sure that we can reach as many people as possible. Chair, I won't take time to really speak about the issues because we want to give a briefing. So we'll quickly give you a background of the current intervention, which is our 26th intervention in peacekeeping as a country. We've been everywhere. We've been to Haiti. Recently, we were in Mozambique. So it's really the work that as a country have been doing on a consistent basis, being part of AU, being part of SADC, but also being part of the world. That's why I say we're even from Haiti. And then we'll speak about the mandate of this one because we've been asked to specifically speak about this one, maybe not about the other missions that we've been involved. But I think more important, because we've been asked to speak about DRC, to give a sense of areas of operations, what is happening where, so that again members have a sense of where things are. And there's been also matters that have been, and that's why I'm very grateful that we have this opportunity, Chair, that have been really concerning the country and the nation in terms of capabilities that were pledged there. I think also to give us an opportunity to explain that this is a SADC mission, it's not a South African mission. We'll explain how these missions work, that it's not us as South Africa who's in the DRC, but we're there as part of a bigger mission whereby the capabilities are capabilities that come from the 16 SADC countries. So it's a SADC operation. But more important also, what brought us here, and that brought this very sad situation, the capture of Goma. We'll explain again what happened in Goma, and as I say, on that very day, when there was this attack on Goma, I happened to have been in the area and was able to visit the different camps in Goma, was able to go to our Air Force, was able to go to our operations, but I was also able to meet the different forces that were in Goma. And what is currently keeping us very busy, Chair, is a repatriation of our remains from Goma. And I think when we explain what the situation is, we'll explain why it is an issue, because when Goma was attacked, the runway was completely destroyed. So we're working out with you and to make sure that we can relieve countries, communities. Parents have been contacting me to say, you know, they're like sitting in the water. If you have a deceased, you want to close the chapter and move on. But if you're not sure when you're going to have burial, it really brings more grief. And that's, for us, also a big priority. Then we'll also conclude, and I do hope as we speak, that we'll also be able to speak about the Friday meeting which we had at SADC, because this is a SADC mission, and that's SADC that is guiding the processes, and it's not because it's not a South African mission, Chair. So, Chair, so I don't go too long. I'm going to ask the General and his team to just speak to the items that we've identified, but as I say, we'll respond to more items that we will need to speak to according to what the members will require. So, Chair, through your permission, can I ask the General to...
Thank you, Minister, Honorable Chairs, and Honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee. I just want to apologize first because it is not in my culture that I should come in when the meeting is on. So I request your indulgence on that. But on this specific point, Honorable Members and Chair, I want to indicate that maybe one should start off by indicating that the presentation today was prepared initially for the closed session. But when we learned that it's going to be an open session, we were very elated. Elated in the sense that we were given the opportunity to be able to speak to our nation, to be able to share with our people in terms of the challenges that we were facing. But we are also deprived of the opportunity to share with the committee in terms of the details that we had prepared for this session. However, we are going to provide as much detail as possible that will not compromise the lives of our people. We will be doing so cognizant of the fact that security is a collective responsibility, and therefore it's not a partisan issue. And as such, we have now toned down the presentation not to deprive the committee of the information. And we're still open, Chair and honorable members, to be there to present the details of the entire deployment. Chair and honorable members, I want to indicate that we are going to start off by outlining what each one of us should be interested in. What is it that is there in the national interest for our national security to be providing to the nation? And secondly, why should the Defence Force be involved in such deployment? And those issues are going to be raised by the presenter in that our foreign policy hinges on the world and the continent and the region that is free of any form of strife, and therefore peace and security remains the cornerstone of that policy thrust. Now, the Defence Force involvement in that part of the policy thrust, defense is a tool of diplomacy as well, and therefore we get involved because of the understanding that military or war is politics by other means, and that had been articulated by those who came before me, that understood that you will use your defense to enhance your diplomacy. Chair and honorable members, I am not going to take much as though I'm going to give the history lessons, but I just want to indicate that the deployment of the South African National Defence Force had been as a result of the SADC summit that took place in Angola. And that summit decision had made it possible for all SADC members to contribute troops, and those troops are the ones that formed part of Summit DRC. South Africa is amongst the troop contributing countries, with Tanzania and Malawi, and therefore this deployment was not solely a bilateral deployment between South Africa and the DRC, but it was a deployment of SADC, as the minister had indicated. So, Honorable Chair and honorable members, I've got the General Officer Commanding of the Operation Headquarters, Major General Godfrey Tulare, who will then give a rundown. He tried to tone down the presentation because it was prepared for the closed session, and as such, if there are gaps in the presentation, we will be able to fill in those gaps within the parameters of security considerations. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, honorable members. Yeah. If you allow, General Tulare can continue with the presentation.
It's the report we want.
Thank you, Chief. Honorable chairpersons, honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee on Defence, as well as the Portfolio Committee on Defence, the Minister of Defence, and the Deputy Ministers, good day. To start with, the SADC Extraordinary Troika Summit, plus the SADC Troika of the 8th of May 2023 in Windhoek, Namibia, amongst others, took a decision to deploy, that is the SADC mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is now, we know as the mission being Summit DRC, due to the M23 activities and the deteriorating security situation. The 43rd SADC Summit of the Heads of States and Government, which was held on the 17th of August 2023 in Luanda, Angola, endorsed the mandate for the deployment of a Summit DRC for a strength of a brigade-size force. Subsequently, all SADC member states were invited to participate in the SADC effort to support and assist the DRC by pledging and providing the determined and required military capabilities as two contributing countries, which South Africa was one of them. The contribution required to contribute to the acts of intensified hostilities perpetrated by numerous armed groups, including M23, and negative forces, resulting in the gross deterioration of security and humanitarian situation in the Eastern DRC. The President of the Republic of South Africa approved the pledging of capabilities and authorized the SNDF deployment to the DRC through the presidential minutes in 23 and in subsequent informed the Parliament. The mandate of the Summit DRC, which is the mission as it is known, is that the Summit DRC deployment is mandated by the African Union and the SADC Standby Force, Peace and Security Architecture to do the following. One, to support the Democratic Republic of Congo to neutralize negative forces and armed groups in the Eastern DRC to restore and maintain peace and security in order to create a secure environment. To support the FRDC by providing logistic, land, air, and maritime assistance in order to enhance its military operational capabilities. To provide support efforts to the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo to continue creating a conducive environment for humanitarian assistance and providing humanitarian relief to the population. To protect the critical infrastructure in the Eastern DRC, mainly to protect the civilians, their properties under imminent threat of the armed groups. The deployment in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is the Eastern DRC, the SNDF has got two components. We have got the forces that we have pledged forces and contributed forces to the Summit DRC. And previously, before that, we were also and currently are contributing forces that is for MONUSCO. So we are participating in two missions which are co-located in the Eastern DRC. The intent of the SADC regional support, it is mainly to restore peace and security, and the mission revolves around the protection of civilians, as well as to establish a favorable security condition for maintenance of peace and stability. We also do assist in the stabilization of the Democratic Republic of Congo forces by means of training programs. A brief with regard to where we are today. The M23 rebel group had over a period of time been continuously conducting attacks on villages. The FRDC, there was a Lendo militia, as well as the Samir DRC forces. This includes the South African, the SNDF forces, the forces from Tanzania, as well as Malawi. Over the period of November 2024 to January 2025, there had been a number of attacks on villages in the Masisi areas, with successful counterattacks by the FRDC. The control of the areas had been changing hands between government forces and the rebel group. Then on Thursday, the 29th of January, M23 launched a heavy early morning dawn attack at 05:30 on our positions, that is in Sake, as well as the adjacent areas. And this fighting took place and lasted, that is, for 3 days. Summit DRC fought gallantly and defended their position and bases in Sake area up until today. Unfortunately, the SNDF, we did lose, that is, some members. Over the period of 3 days, that is from the 29th of January, fierce fighting by our soldiers, the M23, also suffered heavy casualties. The M23 then got reinforcement forces that took, that is another route from the north of Goma, and advanced, that is from Kibati, and subsequently that is to Goma. Our force elements positioned at the airport then deployed in forward position on the Kibati route, and they fought gallantly for 2 days to repel the advance of M23 to the Goma airport, and subsequently that is to the town of Goma. And then on the Monday, the 13th On Monday, the 13th Goma Airport and the town, it came into the hands of M23. The M23 and the Summit DRC, together with MONUSCO forces, are now positions that is at the Goma Airport. However, we still have forces that are still based in Sake. There is currently no confrontation or hostilities between Summit DRC as well as the M23. The truce that was established between the commanders on the ground is currently holding and being respected by all parties. Currently, the priority we are working on day and night is the repatriation of the bodies of the deceased, as well as the injured back home, as well as including to those that are from Malawi and Tanzania. We have engaged the United Nations in New York, as well as MONUSCO in the Democratic Republic of Congo with regard to this repatriation, and we are continuously pushing them. We have engaged SADC through the Secretariat in Gaborone and continuously engage them on a daily basis in order that we are able to bring back that is our deceased as well as those that are injured. We have developed our own plans to conduct the return of the bodies, that is the injured for both, that is from the United Nations and from SADC. And currently, this is being addressed, that is by the United Nations and SADC, in order that it can come into fruition. The recently held summit in Harare, Zimbabwe, resolved to prioritize the repatriation of Summit DRC injured and diseased. The summit called for the immediate dispatch of ministers and chiefs of defense and troop contributing countries to the DRC to ensure that the Summit DRC troops are safe and facilitate immediate repatriation of the deceased and the injured. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We shall then proceed to take questions. Thank you. What I will do, I will just go. I'll start from over there, come this way, because I can see virtually all members want to speak. No.
Thank you, Chair. I might have not heard what they said about the repatriation of the remains of the soldiers that are there. Have they been repatriated, or is there a plan to bring them back? And are there any challenges on that score when they bring those bodies back? And also, Chair, to say with the generals confidently say our forces there are well capacitated to face the situation that they are facing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. The first question has been taken by an honourable member with regards to bringing back the deceased. Can the department confirm when are they going to do it? The second one, how say our soldiers are found to be amongst the DRC soldiers assisting them in the attacks, attacking the M23. In relation to, of the fallen soldiers, have raised concerns on the question with regards to the plan. Our soldiers are still in the DRC. Are they going to leave and come back home with the deceased, or those they are still fit going to still remain there? And what the purpose? What purpose will they serve if they remain after such an acceptable disaster took place? What is the current status with regards to the members, as I've just raised? Chair, there was a, if I could have heard it correctly, there was a mention by the minister, if she can maybe confirm or deny. There was a mention that this incident took place when our soldiers were between the two. The M23 were on the other side, and the DRC soldiers were on the other side. So our members were caught by the bullets that were coming from behind. Can that be confirmed as the truth, or is something maybe I might not have the minister saying over the radio? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Without wasting time, Honorable Chair, we are being made to believe that our soldiers are in the DRC for peacekeeping mission. But what is amazing, it's not for the first time our soldiers are engaging with the enemy in these countries. Same thing happened to Kah, whereby our soldiers died because of engaging with the enemy. Our soldiers are being turned to a defense force of other countries instead of peacekeeping mission that we are being told about here. It doesn't matter whether it's a SADC United Nations mission. It doesn't matter. But what matters here, it's a life of these fathers, mothers, wives, and husbands of the people who are dying. What I want to know, Minister, exactly tell the nation, what is it that our soldiers are protecting there? What is it that our soldiers are protecting? Because now you tell us about the peacekeeping mission and you find soldiers engaging with the enemy. Really, it doesn't give any sense. It doesn't give any sense. When we are peacekeeping, what are real things that you are supposed to do in keeping peace? Are you waiting for war to start and try to engage the enemy as the soldiers? Here we're talking about soldiers of this country who are dying, protecting things. Tell us, tell the nation, tell the world, what is it that it's protected from that DRC at the expense of the poor masses of this country, whereby are being sacrificed to criminals? No one is protecting South Africans. And you always claim that you don't have the budget. You cry about the budget cutting, but you do have money, you do have resources to go and protect and defend other countries instead of peacekeeping. This is not a peacekeeping. Can we think about the lives of these people?
You can wrap
really, it's okay. Thank you, Chair. That's my take.
Thank
and
you.
It's worrisome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. Chairperson, maybe let me start with a controversial question and then work my way up, and the Minister and General and Major General will decide what to answer. There are allegations that family members of President Ramaphosa have significant interests in mining in the eastern DRC. Can this be confirmed? And how is this impacting government's decision to deploy troops to the DRC? Question, the M23 rebels are also claiming that they have captured SA troops and are confining them to their bases. Can this be confirmed? What is government's stance on this, and how will we rectify or turn this situation around? Then, Chairperson, maybe going to this, have troops been visited by senior officials? I know the Minister said she was there, but have they been visited from officials of SA to assess and confirm the situation on the ground? And if so, what has their recommendations been and what has been done? Reports also say that 14 soldiers were killed, but how many have been wounded? How serious are their wounds? Are they field hospitals? Are they receiving medical attention? What is the logistical support situation to these bases? And you don't have to go into details, but is there sufficient food supply, medical supply? Is there levels of medical support? Is there doctors? There's also been reports that say that there's not sufficient ammunition, that our bases have been attacked by drones and that we are not equipped to protect them. Is this the case, and how will we ensure that? Also, how open is our logistical channels from the SA, from South Africa to the DRC, and have we been able to actually restock these supplies to our troops in the DRC, Chairperson? Then, Chairperson, I know that Major General said that there is a truce, but what is the current situation on the ground? Are we continuing with our peacekeeping missions, as my colleague next to me said, or are we confined to our bases? What is happening? And then, have our assets been secured at, for example, Goma Air Force Base, our aircrafts and those things? Because I can just think, should they be in the hands of M23 rebels? That is worrisome. And Chairperson, I will conclude with this question. The Major General said that we are there for air and maritime assistance. But reports have been that the SANDF contingent deployed in the DRC has lacking effective air superiority, and that there is not a link. Can this be confirmed, and why would we then send air support if we cannot sufficiently provide that? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, as we speak now, we are told the M23 rebels have taken control of Goma, airport and other areas. Now, what is the role of the South African soldiers in this case? Are they there, to try again and remove them from where they are now, these M23 rebels? Then, Chair, I just want to know that how many soldiers are there on behalf of MINUSCO and SADC mission? Chair, I'm just checking if maybe there is someone who can tell us whether in that peacekeeping mission, Rwanda was approached in the beginning or was not approached at all. And what was the reason for not being part of the peacekeeping, because they are very, very close to the DRC. And Chair, the mandate of the AU, is it compulsory that South African soldiers must be part of that peacekeeping? If it is the mandate, or it is compulsory by the AU, why other neighboring countries are not part of that peacekeeping mission there? Maybe I can get a clear picture. Chair, I think that is going to be the last, question. Though it has been, it has been asked already, but I would like, to emphasize, if there is any business interest, not personal to someone, but any business that is being conducted there by South Africans in the DRC. Thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, colleagues. Chairperson, this one is for the Minister. On the 29th of January, you said if President Ramaphosa had to issue a warning to the Rwandan forces, stating that hostilities against the South African National Defence Force would be considered a declaration of war, then the catastrophe could have been averted. Are you saying that the President neglected his duty by not sending that warning to the Rwandan President and their forces? Then also, General, we deploy our young men and women, our soldiers, into Africa to go and do peacekeeping. And, so besides giving them guns, we have some very sophisticated weapons. There's the Oryx transport helicopter, can hold up to 19 people. Get them out of danger situations very quickly. Did we have that? Then there's the Rooivalk attack helicopter. And obviously, we know there's no peacekeeping mission. They're fighting M23 rebels. They're at war there. There's no peacekeeping there. People are attacking them, killing them. And we've got at least 8 out of the 46 Rooivalk attack helicopters that still work, General. And then there's some very sophisticated drone equipment, the Seeker 400, designed to perform tactical reconnaissance and surveillance in threat situations. We're sending people to war. Do we provide the air cover, the equipment, so that they can fight at war? Then there's also the Cheetah C-RAM. It's a counter-rocket artillery and mortar C-RAM system. Detects and destroys incoming threats. Had we sent these things, this equipment, we could very well have saved the lives of our young men there. But we didn't. We sent them there to die. We fed them to the wolves because we didn't give them what they need to go and do the job. There's no peacekeeping there. There's a war there. M23, don't ask, are you at war with us? You're a threat to them. So why didn't we send these things? Why didn't we send this equipment, this sophisticated equipment that we spend millions of rands, billions of rands? We give them now billions of rands to develop stuff, but we don't use it. We sell it. That guy sleeping over there, next to you, General.
Please wrap up, Honorable Member.
He's in defense, he's sleeping. Thank you very much, Chairperson. He was sleeping.
Thank you.
You see why our people get killed there? You sleep.
Your speaking time is over. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, we all know that these fightings are to get to the actual mineral wealth within that area. And we all know the forces involved. It's a long-standing war coming on. The vocabulary they use now of a peacekeeping is contradicted by statements that speaks about peace enforcement. Now, if you enforce peace, in other words, you want to enforce something that is not there, obviously you must use these strong arm tactics, resulting then in a subsequent war. Now, it would appear that President Paul Kagame is hell-bent to expose South Africa as being involved in the heart of this war. He said yesterday on CNN, he said the people who are benefiting from minerals in Congo more than anybody else are South Africa and these Europeans who are making noise about it. That's the first point. We want to know why then is it that South Africa finds itself for so long in that area while the Congo is a member of the East Africa community surrounded by powerful armies, like your Kenya, your Ugandans, and all those type of armies, even Rwanda, that's got powerful. What are we doing there? What are we protecting? Are we using our boys, our soldiers, to protect the business interests of powerful, prominent South Africans? Are we using people, are we hell-bent to send them to their death to protect the mineral wealth that prominent figures protect in that area for their own benefits? That's a question. That's a serious question, central to this entire argument, because it is senseless. We don't understand why we are sending troops for peacekeeping and it results into war and our boys are dying. Secondly, the distortion, Chairperson, of the hoisting or the raising of the white flag that we've all seen on social media and in media reports. We all know, we are not fools. We know if you hoist a white flag, you do surrender. Yes, you do surrender. It's in a war. You cannot raise a white flag just to say, oh, we are here. Or come fetch your weapons here, as has been said. It is a token of surrender. It brings us to the point that we ask, are our soldiers effectively and efficiently armed for the type of combat that they are involved? Then the answer is no. If the answer is yes, 14 of our guys would not have died. The answer is yes, they are not adequately armed, trained, and equipped. And this is why they have died at the hands of those guys, of those gangsters, and those that are hell-bent to get us out there. Last question, Chairperson. Is the fact that I want to know why is it that South Africa must always play a big brother in the entire Africa? Yes, we are a powerful nation, we have a powerful economy, and we have powerful interests all over here. But why is it that we must always play big brother if there are capable and competent armies all over? We, Chairperson, in closing, speak on behalf of the nation and we say we are disappointed, disgusted in what has happened there. We express our condolences, our sympathies towards the families of the bereaved. We trust that God, through His Holy Spirit, will comfort the bereaved and their children. But we demand here this afternoon that we say an in-depth investigation must happen, and we must get to the bottom of this. And if people are not capable to lead military missions or even political missions, then heads must roll. It is inevitable that the political office overseeing this, they cannot account. We've seen here now this afternoon, the reports coming out. They cannot account. We will demand that heads must roll. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just as an aside, not all white people look the same and think the same. It happened to have been Mr. Chris Hutton, my colleague here, who asked you that the chair should not speak for 20 minutes. But I did happen to agree with that because we as members should have the right to have enough time to speak. But in seriousness, Chair, I'm holding here in my hands a file which contains the reports, the legacy reports, since 2015 of what had been told to the chief of the South African National Defence Force, also the current chief's predecessor, and the various ministers. that the SANDF is not in a position to carry out an offensive mandate in any country in Africa, that the SANDF is collapsing. Now, it's taken a year for the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Mpofu-walsh, to come to our committee. We've asked many times, he never dignified us with his presence. It had to take 14 of our SANDF soldiers to die for him to come here. We told the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans, the SANDF is collapsing. We cannot carry out an offensive mission in the DRC. Here are my 3 questions. Why are you Minister? And why is the President lying to us about the nature of the operation that we have in the DRC? It is not a peacekeeping mission. It is an offensive mission, and it is defined as such by the SADC. Therefore, you knew that our soldiers were going to be shot at, to die in the killing fields of the DRC. You did not have the ammunition, you did not have the supplies, you do not have the money to have sent them, but you sent them to die for the mineral wealth that is being looked after, the mines that are being looked after, that belongs to Cyril Ramaphosa, his family, and his friends. On all sides, we have a defense of the mineral wealth rather than for the people of the DRC. That is my first question. My second question, Minister, and the Chief of the South African National Defence Force. When are you going to bring our soldiers back? Are you bringing them back now? And explain to us how you are going to bring them back. And my third question, why do you disrespect us? And why do you disrespect the South African nation with this pitiful little report that contains hardly any information, that doesn't address the issues that needed to be addressed here this afternoon? Stop disrespecting us. And lastly, when are you Minister? No, I'm just pointing to the Minister. Okay, let me leave my hands down, Minister. And when are you Chief of the South African National Defence Force resigning? You should resign today. And when are the rest of your generals who were playing golf at Copperleaf while our soldiers were dying, when are they going to resign? Those are my questions. I expect answers.
There is a point of order. There is a point of order. Point of order, yes.
What is the point?
Chair,
one earns respect.
we cannot
one doesn't
allow
demand
a member
respect, Minister.
Honorable,
Your behavior doesn't
pointing
earn
someone.
respect.
No. Chair, don't allow this.
honorable members,
Because we're able to point others also.
we started the meeting by agreeing that the issue we are here to discuss is non-partisan. Secondly, we agreed that we are going to conduct ourselves in a manner that behoves a country that has lost 14 soldiers. I suggest that we continue to do that in honor of our men who died in the DRC. And so I suggest that we conduct ourselves in that fashion, that the President, this meeting is a meeting on behalf of Parliament. The protocols of respect that Parliament confers on each member still apply here. And so the President must still remain the President, Mr. Ramaphosa, or Honorable President or Honorable Ramaphosa. so that we don't raise tempers unnecessarily. It then doesn't assist us to get the answers that we are looking for. Honorable Hattie.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. If let's get this out of the way. The only person in this meeting who initially referred to the fact that this is a peacekeeping mission is a minister. Now, we all know it's not. The peacekeeping portion of the narrative that goes out is to appease the nation. What did the president order? He ordered to support and assist the government of the DRC in its effort to neutralize illegal armed groups and negative forces in the conflicted areas of the DRC, thereby ultimately restoring peace and security. Ultimately. The order is to go down, hunt down, kill and disarm these people. That's offensive. So I would like to know who advised the minister that this is a peacekeeping mission. And I suppose the president in signing this order was also advised the same. So I would like to know that in the light of our ill-preparedness for what we had to face in the DRC, no air support, no close air support, very limited logistical support, very limited medical support, and that's why we sit in this situation where we are today. So I would like to know, I would like to get some comment on the lack of our resources, our support that we have exposed our soldiers to in the DRC, and then also who advised the minister and the president that this is a peacekeeping mission, or did it arrive, did it grow somewhere, was born somewhere in a smoke-filled room? I don't know. I would like to get an answer. Secondly, the vague report about the United Nations, MONUSCO will negotiate the repatriation in an area controlled by the M23. We are limited to our bases. We cannot go out there with arms. We are, in fact, hostages in an area. We cannot get to our soldiers. We cannot resupply them. We cannot get in there with any air support, nothing. We rely on M23, and we have to thank them for not retaliate for us killing so many of them, our brave soldiers. So I want to know, what is the plan? We can't ask the Secretary General of the United Nations to come and explain what will happen with our personnel. We're surrounded. What will happen to the equipment? Have we lost equipment to M23? And what is the plan? And then we can't say we are negotiating with United Nations or MONUSCO. It's happening today, and we need to know. So timelines, when will it happen? And then a question that comes up and of very concerned families, what is the situation with the deceased? Are they properly cared for until they will be repatriated? South Africa needs answers on that. Then the root, let's address perhaps in this session also the root problem. And I don't believe that the minister was informed or the president was informed. What is the root cause of our problem? Chair, that is over more than a decade, the defunding of the SANDF. We don't maintain our equipment, we don't preserve them, we don't modernize, we sell the old equipment. Our equipment that we have to use, and when we mobilize, sit in stores without proper preservation. It cannot be used, they are rusting away. We save, because we have to pay this massive salary being defunded, we cut corners. We cut corners in training. We have brave soldiers, the best in Africa. We have them. In October, in the infantry school where we trained leaders, there was no diesel and no ammunition. The leaders had to dig trenches. So I would like to know, was the President and Minister informed that we are not this heavyweight in Africa anymore, that we are not the tiger of Africa anymore, that in fact we have become a paperweight, if in boxing terms.
Thank you.
We have become a paper tiger. Was the Minister and the President informed that we don't have the capacity anymore?
Thank you,
Chair.
Honourable Hatti. And no, Honourable Member, can we also not point fingers?
Thank you, Chair.
Honourable members, I'm sure.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes, I'll come to the point of order. I'm sure we can all speak without pointing fingers and showing disrespect to one another. It is very possible. It's also very possible to be as robust as we want to be in our speaking without showing disrespect at one another. So let's try and do that. Point of order.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes. Sorry, there is a point of order. Yes.
Chair, you have called out earlier on the Honourable Carl Niaus, right? And you don't do the same to the Minister, and she have been continuously doing it, talking in and intimidating members while they are making their points. And pointing fingers.
Yes.
So she must just hold herself in and relax. It's going to be over soon, but she must not do this on pointing and then she thinks she can just do as she pleases. She's not. We are not here on her time. We also have our own schedules and we want and demand answers. And even if we have to sit until tomorrow morning to get those answers, we'll sit here until then.
Thank you, honourable members. I think we ruled on that at the beginning of the meeting. Let's proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I will stick to the subject matter of this committee and not go to other matters. Minister, it is. Can you and the General just clear the matter of the SADC deployment and the participants in the whole mission itself? And also, my understanding that is that there's a lot of defense units on the ground in DRC. What is the effect of that, having so many units in one kind of peacekeeping mission? Secondly, Minister, this is a real important question, and I think it must be tried to be answered. Do we really still need our soldiers in the DRC? Do we need them to be there? Why do we need them to be there? And then, General, on your presentation, you are talking about non-confrontation, which is maybe another term, because the media have been moving with this matter of ceasefire. Is there a difference between ceasefire and non-confrontation? Because we've been told that the ceasefire for Rwanda to collect the bodies, for us to repatriate our soldiers, but the General is clearly now saying that there's just no non-confrontation in the meantime. Is it because there's no ceasefire agreement that you presented here as a non-confrontation? Lastly, Minister, what will politically be needed to restore peace in the DRC? What will be the ultimate to make sure that there's peace in DRC and our kids can come home safely and we can bring them back from DRC? I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Swartz.
Thank you, Chairpersons. Chairpersons, firstly from our side, we also want to commend our troops that fought and died and those that fought like lions. Now, for many years, I have argued that the defence budget vote is under-resourced, and in fact, on the 16th of July last year, I said, in this 7th administration, Honourable Minister, and more particularly the DM, with your military background, we must ensure our troops have the necessary equipment or admit that we are not up to the task and bring them home. I even quoted from that famous poem of Tennyson, The Charge of the Light Brigade, where he said, someone has blundered, someone has blundered. But soldiers, theirs is not to ask why. Theirs is not to reason why, theirs is but to do or die. So there are two elements here. There's the underfunding, and then secondly, there's the military side of things. General, given the fact that you have this under-resourced, that you did not have the military capacity in as much as air support. We know 2014, the Rooivalk attack helicopters were very effective. Given that you didn't have those resources at your disposal, could you not have advised politically to the Commander-in-Chief, the President, that we're not up to this task, given that your own generals advised against the mission, calling it doomed to failure? That is my biggest concern. We sounded the alarm. We were ill-advised. And what was the degree of military intelligence? And again, Chair, I understand these are operational issues. We fully would support an inquiry behind doors if necessary, so we can look into the depths of these issues. Was there sufficient intelligence when the MR23 were approaching? Why do we only have 3 forces from Malawi, Tanzania, and South Africa? And again, the aspersions about protecting mining interests. Our soldiers have died. Did we learn nothing from Bangui? Here, it was an offensive peace enforcement mandate. And given our lack of resources, General and your staff, did you seriously consider whether you were up to this task? Chairperson, I would also like to ask the Minister, when you deployed there, and I've got 20 seconds, and thank you for going there, but did it not put the soldiers in greater risk when you were there now? Because soldiers had to be withdrawn from the front lines to protect you. But again, you saw exactly what was going on. You saw that was issues, but maybe you can address that visit. Thank you, Chair. As I say, I support an inquiry into this. Let it be held behind doors if necessary, given the operational issues. But our soldiers have died, and we warned about that in July last year. I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, my first question would be, where is the presentation that the General have read to us? Because we must be, as members of Parliament, be privy to such information. Because I asked my member that serves on defense, and we didn't receive such a presentation. So he must send that presentation because, one, as a chair, you shouldn't have even allowed for this meeting to have continued without giving members of Parliament a presentation, whether it's via email or so forth. This Parliament has rules, and part of those rules is that we must be furnished with the critical information that we are supposed to engage with. So it's quite disappointing. Number 2, Chair, for the mere fact that the generals are seated here with us this afternoon, it means that there's no peace there. Why must we wait to bring back the soldiers that are still stuck in the DRC? Why must they still be there protecting the interest of white monopoly capital and the interest of Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa? Why must lives be lost? They must ask that question. Maybe perhaps, Minister, your spokesperson will help you. But it's disheartening to see kids on TikTok crying for their loved ones that are still stuck there, not knowing are their parents safe or not safe. Doesn't that rock you? Doesn't that shake you? Because if it's in fact true what the Major is saying, and I'm not pointing to him, I like to speak with my hands. If it's indeed true that what the Major is saying, we would have had at least bring back our soldiers by now. Because the Minister went there Some Secretary General also went and paraded there, took photos, and come back. And didn't bring back our soldiers that are dying on a daily basis. In fact, we need the truth. There's not this fancy report that we have just received now that everything is hunky-dory, there's no issues. It's a lie. And we are being misled as Parliament. So that's why we need the report and this presentation, so that we can, if there's indeed we are being misled, there's a recourse as this Parliament that we can take. We cannot let the blood of our brothers and sisters be in vain like that. We cannot continue like that. The last, we knew for about 10 years, Advocate, that the budgets were cut on year end, and we have rejected these budgets. And forever we were told as EFF, you are rejecting service delivery. Because we knew why we are rejecting them. Because how do you pass a defense budget? We can't keep our country safe. We have been exposed. Thirdly, what was the intelligence, the military intelligence? Couldn't we have perceived this attack on our soldiers and further attacks that might still happen as we are seated here in this air-conned offices of ours? Work needs to be done. Boots needs to go to the ground. We need to bring our soldiers back. And I want to propose, Chair, again, there's budgetary constraints. Why are we parading on Sona Day all of those troops here? If there's indeed budgetary constraints, because if we look in terms of the money that is spent to bring those troops here, the money that is going to be spent to feed the troops and all of that, there's nowhere in the Constitution that it stated that Mr. Ramaphosa must have that. In fact, he should have called it off and said to Parliament, in line of having our fallen soldiers, we will not be paraded. Because what are you parading? What are you showcasing? We knew that the Rooivalk and the diesel pumps and everything were broken. We were told that as committee members in appropriations. We're told that. And yet, we sit here this afternoon and come with a honky-dory report and think things are normal. Carl is correct. The minister by now should have held her head in shame. The generals by now should have held their head in shame to come and disregard Parliament like this with some clumsy report that they think they can bypass us like some of us can't read. So by now they should have at least we should have found themselves there. If there's indeed peace, let them fly out tonight on a plane. If indeed there's no threat and everything is hunky-dory as he stated, let the two generals that are seated here today, let the president send them there, and then we will hear from them how they will return. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I have 3 questions for the Minister. Minister, I want to take you back to an interview you did 2 weeks ago on live television. In this interview, you spoke about our equipment and you said, we are not where we want to be in respect of equipment. And the interviewer then asked you about our air support, a question which you very neatly sidestepped and said, war usually comes with casualties. And then you said, we have trained and capable personnel. Now, my question is, why was the SANDF contingent deployed to the DRC despite lacking effective air superiority and a strategic air bridge between South Africa and the operational area in Goma? My second question, also in response to what you've said on live television, is a conversation you had with the interviewer about budget cuts. And you said you were in constant contact with the Minister of Finance and with Treasury. In response to that, the interviewer said, in light of these limitations, is it worth sending our soldiers to the DRC, seeing how dangerous it is? And your response, Minister, was, there is no price on peace. There is no price on peace. You said that twice. My question today is this still your view? And the third question, which also emanates from that interview, is that you concluded that day to live television to say, I can promise you that you can sleep peacefully. We will be able to defend the country. We have enough capacity. We are confident. So the question is, who is the confident we? Is it the same we who advised the President to extend this deployment in the DRC? If it is, who are they? Are they the generals that spoke here today? Are there other generals? Are they the generals who attended a golf day recently? Who purchased luxury vehicles? Are they the generals who renovated their houses during the course of last year, when all of this was going on in the DRC? Or was it the Chief of the Army, Lieutenant General Mabata, who wrote a book entitled Planning is Everything? Because if it was, it would be quite ironic. Because reports this weekend said, from an insider in the SANDF, said the troops were killed because of a failure of planning. So the question is, who are the we that you're referring to that supposedly is so ready to keep our country safe? And who are the people that advised you and that advised the President?
Thank you.
Sorry, Chairperson. And also, what are the consequences for those we?
Oh, are you speaking or jumping?
I'm speaking.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair and coaches. I think we need to appreciate the report as presented to us. At the same time, put the family members who lost their loved ones. Yeah, I should think this is the message we need to communicate also as these committees, joint committees of Parliament, to say we share the pains. They've lost their lives. But at the same time, Chair, I should think we need to, I'm glad that you gave a direction that we need to deal with this matter with the sensitivities it has. And I think I will indulge the Minister and the generals, even when you are to respond to our questions, don't deal with how you are going to deal with the matters that will put the lives of the poor soldiers that are the more vulnerable. But the point that I want to raise, we've seen media reports that our soldiers, some are trapped there. And when they are trapped there, I should think there's a plan, though I won't want to hear the details, but the issue is that we are all concerned to say, if now they are surrounded there, likelihood of them running short of food, and now that we know that Goma now is a no-fly zone, I hope there's a plan to say how do we rescue our soldier there. And then I'm also worried about the injured ones. Because we know when they went there for peacekeeping, they knew what they were going to do. And it's the life of a soldier. And then we should then also commend them, having died with their boots on, because I think they had subscribed to the oath of office and the responsibility. but also a matter that I just want clarity on, General, because we have been in these missions since 1999 as a country. And then I want to understand whether there was a pre-deployment training done for this current contingent that we deployed, because knowing that M23 has been there and now it's a technologically advanced operation, I should think then sufficient training will have assisted us a great deal to avoid this, but I just wanted to know whether there was sufficient training for this contingent that we are dealing with. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I came here knowing that politicians and military generals have a way of saying much, speaking a lot and saying little. So I won't ask why we are in the DRC. I think that matter will be discussed extensively on Monday in the National Assembly debate. But I do want to ask a couple of questions. And the first one is, the Minister said that they are very busy repatriating the deceased. The very people that my colleague, Honourable Ngobeni, warned in July 24 in the BRR, she said troops are going to die. It's one thing repatriating deceased people. What about evacuating the injured? Casualty evacuation. If there are no casualty evacuation plans, and the Honourable Members just said Goma is a no-fly zone, we're going to have more body bags coming back to South Africa. So what's the plan with the evacuation, casualty evacuation? That's my first question. The second question, what is the status of the bases that our troops occupy in Sake, in Goma, in the eastern DRC? Are they prisoners of war or hostages? We've seen the images. The images of the base camp that I've seen indicate that our troops were actually more like a ragtag militia than the people we were fighting against. Are we providing them logistical support, food, water, ammunition, firepower, air, and artillery support? If not, at whose mercy are they? The third question is, what support are we giving to the family of the deceased soldiers? The fourth question, what is the situation with other collaborating forces, troops? We hear some of them have been evacuated, gone. Ours are still there. And lastly, are we reassessing our involvement in the Eastern DRC as a peacekeeping mission or offensive fighting force? And if we are, when are we going to withdraw our troops? Thank you. And Chair, I don't think there's any debate about whether there will be an inquiry. I believe that we are going to push hard on Monday for an inquiry to take place about what happened in the DRC. This portfolio committee won't cut the mustard.
Thanks, Chair. And also maybe to greet the Minister and finally the presence of the Chief of Defence. I think the report given by generals doesn't inspire confidence. It simply illustrates that you are negotiating a safe passage to go and repatriate, evacuate the wounded soldiers, but not a clear indication what then becomes the status of the mission itself. Are we going to reinforce or withdraw? It's more like an interval. If it was very clear that indeed we are going to reinforce and continue with the mission to go and recapture Rubaya mines in the interest of South Africa's capitalist class, then we would know that the resources of the country are spent in defense of the interest of the bourgeois. But the report doesn't tell us anything, because it doesn't even give us. Maybe what we'd be interested in is that what is the attitude or the position of the South African government against the glorified Zamazama of Rwanda. Because we continuously giving half-hearted diplomatic statements instead of real issues as to what are we going to do moving forward with the situation in Rwanda, in the DRC. And the question again is, with what the members would have submitted in terms of the defense intelligence, the air support, why is the Russian satellite not maintained, General? Because that would have assisted the mission and the soldiers to give intelligence that they report back to the joint operations headquarters on time, so that our soldiers can prepare and be ready for any form of attack. And in the interest of that, again, why is government wanting to have to procure a satellite from the Turkish when we have one that we should be maintaining right now to support our defense intelligence? Because it illustrates our vulnerability in terms of national security and undermines the mandate of the South African National Defence Force in terms of our own territorial integrity and sovereignty. Means we are also not safe. It's unfortunate that we have to discuss these sensitive matters in this manner, because it exposes our vulnerability as a nation in terms of intelligence and information. But we find ourselves having to discuss these things, and things that we've been asking in many meetings. And it seems like the collapse of the defense force is deliberate, so that we then privatize it, and the country is ultimately controlled by those that they know that are in the interest of business together, commercializing our nation ultimately. So if we can be given that kind of a status, as to what then is the state of the mission, and if reinforcements do happen, what are the financial implications? And lastly, Chair, the P7 account, when these reimbursements happen from the UN, does it directly go to fiscus, or because there was an argument of saying these reimbursements must come back and fund the defense? Are they utilized to fund the defense, or they're doing other things at this stage? Thank you, Chair.
Chair. Emphasize one point that relates to the introduction of the report by the minister, if my listening was correct, that this was not a mission of South Africa. South Africa did not wake up one day and decided to go and just wander in DRC. It's a SADC mission, the joint mission of countries. And just South Africa happens to be part of those countries, as it was decided in the meetings that we were told about here. But it seems like we are now taking an ownership as though this was our war. And therefore we are demanding answers from ourselves. But the answers must come from the joint body that has decided to deploy SADC soldiers in DRC. So my question will be, when will that body again convene, so that we can get a report of SADC and MONUSCO on the basis of what has happened? How are they intending then going forward to address this matter? And as a country also will be part of that, and our answers will come there. But that does not, of course, say we shouldn't address ourselves about our involvement. But one thing that surprises me, we say we want answers from department and the defense. But we seems to be, some of our members, knowing more and having more reasons why we were there. But you want to ask for reasons why we were there. But you are saying, you are telling us why we were there. Diamonds, Ramaphosa, and so on. That means you are part of it somehow, maybe. You are only telling us indirectly that you are part of why, what needs to be protected there. So you must organize another meeting where perhaps you will come and tell us what more do you know beyond what our soldiers was there for, and which is what we are here to listen to, and then we can take an informed decision from the people who are involved. No, I didn't disturb you when you were talking. When you were talking about the bourgeoisie, you must come and tell us this bourgeoisie you know about. So, Chair, no, they must keep quiet. You must keep quiet when you were talking. No, keep quiet, please. Keep quiet. You are not going to tell me what to say. Keep quiet.
Honorable member.
No, keep quiet. I kept quiet. Keep quiet then.
Honorable member. Honorable member.
No, you must keep quiet. I'm now talking my input. I'm not going to talk your input.
Honorable members. Yes. Honorable members. Yes. Listen to the chair.
We are not a minister.
Listen to the chair.
We are not expecting response.
Listen to the chair. Honorable.
Yes, you'll hear from us.
Please listen to the chair. We are no, hold on. We are obligated. No. We are obligated to take the wait.
If you just
order. We are no, don't help me.
You cannot allow people who have been howling.
Honorable member, you are out of order. Honorable member, you are out of order. Please allow the chair to chair. Let's calm down. If there is a point of order, we're obligated to listen to it. Then the chair will rule. Let's all just be calm. You know, there is a point of order.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, there are meeting protocols and there are rules of Parliament.
Yes.
And we are obliged, and we can call a point of order. Maybe perhaps somewhere the member have lost it in the induction of Parliament.
Please raise the point of order.
Secondly, he must respect your authority as the chairperson. If for some weird reason he doesn't respect your authority as the chairperson of this committee, he must not bring it here. And thirdly, we have no part, Chief, of you sending soldiers there to die.
Sure.
That is Mr. Ramaphosa, because he's protecting the minerals of his white friends.
You are not raising a point of order.
No.
Honorable members, you are not raising a point of order. You are debating with the speaker because you disagree. So there's a point of order. There's another point of order.
Another one.
Chair, we are entitled to have views, and at the same time we're entitled to ask questions. The honourable member is trivialising the views that we have expressed and tried to hide behind that in order not to ask questions himself. He's supposed to pose questions here to the General and to the Minister. Let him do his job and not try to play political games. Thank you.
Honourable members, let's pass this point. The member has also finished making his point. Let's move on to the next speaker.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I was happy to hear Honorable Harting to say that we have also killed so many of them in DRC. Honorable Chair, I should think that on this issue of mandate in DRC, it was clearly stated by the General when he made his presentation. But I will also again ask the General to repeat that mandate. We've been talking about the repatriation of the deceased, but we don't have time frames this is the 5th day today. When exactly are we repatriating the deceased troops in DRC? General, in front of me, could you please take us into confidence as to are our troops adequately trained and equipped? The last question would be, in fact, it's not a question, it's a clarity about this white flag. Because to me, when I watched TV, I didn't regard that as a white flag. And I don't know, General, maybe you might school us. Do we use white flags in a war situation? Because we last, according to my knowledge, we last used the white flags during 1906 Bambata rebellions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, as members sitting in both committees, we are aware of our forces being in the DRC. We are aware that as South Africa, we have an active participation in the regional security mission. That includes in the DRC. So, as Bangatin challenge, and now, knowing quite well about the issues that have occurred in Goma, having the fatalities, what is the situation now around the soldiers that are there in the DRC? So that when we speak here, we need to look at the issues and look at the situation on what to advise the Parliament. Then again, there was a meeting that took place on the 31st of January of SADC. Surely, there was something that they said about the situation that is happening, be it Rwanda or DRC, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm seeing a president talking in the media. So I'm just checking because that's a SADC mission that our soldiers are involved in. And now, I want to know what will happen or what will happen to the soldiers now that they are there. And then also, after that 31st meeting, were there any attacks that occurred? Or at least now it's quiet. I know you cannot preempt because also the attack, it was not known, I think so. But the situation, because we need to look at the situation of our soldiers that are there in the DRC. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dakota.
Thank you very much, Chair. Given the presentation, let me welcome the presentation by the Minister and the team. I would just want to get clarity in terms of how this mission is funded, the model, so that we know whether we're overburdening the taxpayers in our country or what, so that we are clear, or whether it's SADC that is funding or the United Nations, and how that money is deposited to our coffers. My second question would be on the ceasefire. How the ask, because it's very clear that this particular mission will not find a proper expression or conclusion through military processes. What are the processes that you have done to include military diplomacy with all parties involved? What have we done? I think from our side as the defense, we will have to have a joint engagement with international relations to try to invoke diplomacy into this particular matter as part of the negotiations for a ceasefire, but also for a safe evacuation of our soldiers in the DRC. What efforts have been taken to bring military diplomacy as well as the international relations diplomacy? The other point is related to, finally, what is the process or measures undertaken to withdraw from the mission? Because any mission has time frames, even if it's done by the United Nations. You know, either by last year, December, it was supposed to end, or by June, or by December this year. So, what are the measures undertaken? But the other thing that I see or not seeing is our flags. We say these are our heroes, these are our gallant soldiers who have fallen with their boots on. But I don't see our flags flying at half-mast. Or is there anything wrong in recognizing and appreciating their sacrifice as a nation? Because they've fallen in an effort to bring peace in the continent on behalf of all of us and the continent and the United Nations. So why are we not appreciating their sacrifice by ensuring that they died for the flag, and the flag also must pay back through flying half-mast to their sacrifice? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And let me as well appreciate the presentation made by the Minister and the command staff. I think honourable members have covered almost everything. What I want to raise here, Minister, is the SADC Mutual Defence Pact silence on two issues. One is on the root cause of the problem in DRC. Secondly, what is silent there is non-committal by the countries around the Great Lakes. I would propose, Minister, that this pact, the pact must be reviewed. It must be looked into. I propose that the Secretariat, including the DRC, must look into it and consider these two things, which I'm saying they are lacking. That is the root cause, including non-committal by the fighting, countries around the Great Lakes. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. If I may also take the opportunity to ask a few questions. I think the first one, and I must declare that I'll also be happy if these questions are not given detail, since we are still in operation. The first one is, did we have intelligence prior to the attack? And did we know, were we caught by surprise that the Congolese would fire at M23 or Rwanda over our heads, so that we would then be caught in the crossfire? Secondly, were the forces deployed in the DRC equal to the mandate that they were given? And they were they equal? Because from what we have heard, we are facing a complex situation there, which not only involves the M23 Rwandan forces and the DRC government. There are other militia groups which are fighting on either side of the camps. Were we equal to the opposing forces in terms of strength and capability, training, equipment, and everything involved? Thirdly, what did we know about the complexity of this mission? Correctly, we've been assisting DRC to keep peace since 2001. We've been there at various phases. What did we know about the complexity of the current mission and the dynamics of our deployment, so that we would be able to face the situation on the ground and successfully execute our mandate? And I think the other question would relate to what Honorable Dakota has asked, whether from the side of SADC and the UN, and in terms of our own understanding, what is our anticipation as to the length of our stay in the DRC? And I would like to understand, even though it is not the primary mission of the Department of Defense, but what diplomatic efforts are taking place? Because at the end of the day, I think what Major General indicated earlier was that the National Defense Force is a foreign policy tool. They don't go in a conflict situation to actually establish the peace. They support the political effort, the diplomatic efforts to establish the peace. So, what are the diplomatic efforts currently undertaken to bring about lasting peace, so that we can begin to anticipate that at some point we will have to bring back our soldiers? And I know in asking this, it's a complex question, because several times we've left the DRC thinking that peace has been established, but we found ourselves having to go back there because the conflict in the eastern DRC would have erupted again. And finally, we've seen a lot of pictures, videos, some of them depicting the actual conflict moment. Is it allowed that soldiers on mission should have cell phones taking pictures of the situation? I know that their families would be interested, but doesn't it endanger not only their lives, but also the lives of their colleagues. That whilst there is shooting all over, you are carrying a mobile phone, taking videos and pictures of that situation. Doesn't it endanger the mission? So, Minister, we hand over to you.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Let me also take this opportunity to thank members for the engagement and the questions which again help us appreciate areas of concerns that the committee has. Chair, I won't take all the questions. I'll just answer a few, and then I know the generals will be able to answer. I think when we answer, we'll also have to explain the sequence of events when first the fall of Goma as a city and then at the airport. So there's a member who raised the issue about shooting over our heads. It was at the airport where we have a base, your air base and your logistic base. And that happened that's where we lost the 3 soldiers. So what would have happened, which led to also then the statement that one of the members from the EFF raised, was that there was an incident where the missiles came from the direction of Rwanda, and they landed on our base. And that's the first report we have, because after every 2 hours we do get reports of what is happening there. It only emerged later that it was not Rwanda that had initiated the shelling that landed up in our base. It was a response to a shelling that came from the DRC into Rwanda's direction, and Rwanda was reacting. And that's why we said, if indeed Rwanda would have deliberately targeted us as a peacekeeping force, which means they would have been declaring war. But clearly, they were responding to the DRC and not to us. And I think that's where the statement came. So I think we'll clarify the different sequences, because I think maybe because the report was verbal, there would have been some misunderstanding about the defense. The only matter that I must say, Chair, I feel requires answering is these allegations about the reasons why we're in the Rwanda. Why we're in the DRC. Chair, it will really shook me to the core that heads of state of 15 countries meet in a specific day. We are saying on the 8th of May at Windhoek in Namibia. Heads of state took a decision for the Summit DRC mission. So from the allegations, so it means all of them, 15, agreed to go and protect the interests of South African business. I think it just really shocks me to think. It's really also taking, in my view, taking the entire SADC for nothing, that they could meet as heads of state on behalf of individuals in South Africa. It's a mission supported also by AU. So even AU will sit and support a mission that supports certain individuals in South Africa. Where still UN also, United Nations, sits and support a mission that is supposed to support South African business. It can't be true. It just, common sense says it can't be true. And we did spell here what were the objectives of the mission. At no stage it's mentioned any person's name. So I thought I should raise that the allegations just don't seem to, I don't want to be, I'm bullying, so I don't want to use strong words, but they just don't seem to really make adequate sense. I think the chair also raised a question about budgets, because we're mixing issues, the chair, I think. And the questions that you said I answered, yes, if I am to answer, I'll repeat them. I was talking about the inadequacy of the budget for our own local needs. When we go to Summit DRC, we go, there's 15 countries. The money that supports the mission comes from the SADC countries. even MINUSCO, it comes from UN. So to say we would have taken the royal flag, we're not going. So why do we take a royal flag if we're not going to war? What we take is things that, like we were attacked to protect ourselves. So you take enough to protect yourself, but you don't take your firepower to a country as if you're going to war with that country. We're not going to war to that country. Whether we call it peacekeeping or what, in our understanding is peacekeeping. That's why we didn't take our fire. That's why we didn't take our fire. So I think people can call it the names they want, but to expect that we have taken our firepower to another country when we're not going to war, whereas we just needed enough to protect ourselves in case. And which happened that we attacked and we had enough firepower to protect ourselves, but we not take their firepower. So I'll repeat those things and confirm that indeed the country is safe in the hands of our members. The other question also was, we're playing big Father Christmas, and then we're in the UNESCO. There are more than 10 countries. The head of UNESCO is even a Senegalese. It's not a South African. So you have your Bangladeshi army. The hospitals are run by Indian doctors. Madagascar is bringing medical. So it's a world mission. We might have been there in the summit DRC, but in UNESCO there are more than 10 countries that are involved. So there's no South Africa playing big alone. It is. I thought I should raise that. You have India there. I mean, some of the soldiers that we met were in the hospital run by Indian medical personnel. There was a question whether we saw. We did have an opportunity to meet the injured. Yes, we did. We were able to visit the injured at the Summit DRC hospital and also at the UN hospital, right? So we were able to see them, even all of them. We were able to visit them that at the time had been repatriated. That's the soldiers were distracted because they had to protect the minister. When the war broke, I was in Kinshasa, not even there. So we were on our own with the officials. We had gone with senior officials from the department to go and visit our soldiers. So our visit came before the outbreak, or on the eve of the outbreak. And because, as I say, from intelligence, we were getting information that there are tensions that are brewing, and there was a need to go and speak with the government, which we did. And I want to emphasize the point that you made, and I think that's what we had said with SADC, that the challenges of the DRC have been so long and protracted. But with this modern times, we believe that you can't solve any conflict now by the gun, the barrel of the gun. Yes, you need firepower, but the solution is going to come from a negotiated settlement. That's where that's where the peacekeeping process is coming to say you will not solve this conflict through war. You can only solve it through negotiations. And I thought also I should just share a few points that I think I should share with the committee. For instance, yes, indeed, they wanted to check if there's a colleague or a member who wanted to check what is SADC doing. As I said, last week Friday we went to a SADC meeting with heads of state, and a communique has been issued. It was there in the public. Amongst other things that was agreed was a ceasefire and allow a peaceful negotiation process to go, because that's what we think will bring peace, not any escalation of war. We, even at that meeting, agreed to meet the Eastern African communities, which had already met before. Because you'll remember there was a UN mission which supported the Summit DRC. There was a meeting of AU also, even before we went to SADC, which had met, but also the Eastern African Community also had met. So the agreement there was that the two communities should meet and strengthen their hand in supporting a peaceful process in the DRC. They said the meeting agreed on, before we even are told to go to ministers, as ministers, to see if we'll take the fire. The meeting had decided that ministers of defense and the chiefs to go to the DRC and to make sure that they can really engage directly with the forces. There's a process which has been agreed, Chair, from the Friday meeting at SADC, which is going to culminate in a follow-up meeting. So because there are negotiations, there are engagements, diplomatic engagements taking place during the week, because we were there on Friday, and there is going to be a follow-up meeting on Friday or over the weekend to check how far the processes have gone. So there is a process underway. I think I've answered the question about the funding model that is funded through the 15 countries and more, as I say, also from UN. The ceasefire, I think we agreed with members who are saying diplomacy is the only agreed process if we want peace in the DRC. I think that the generals will explain the flag. We tried to explain, but I think there's a need to explain again. Who is going to be there? There was a question there. Is all that meeting on Friday identified affected parties? That indeed we will have to get Rwanda around the table, we have to get DRC around the table, but we have to get Kenya also as a country which had first was part of the earlier negotiations, the Nairobi peace settlement. We are going to have to get Angola, which had been mandated by AU to facilitate the process, and so that you don't have a very unwieldy meeting of those two communities. Then you'll have a troika from the SADC countries and also a troika from the Eastern African countries. So there is a meeting that is there. About intelligence, as a part of us going there, Chair, it might have been that I think the Chair will explain. The signs were there. And we had been really trying to do all we can, but unfortunately we ended up where we ended up. Yeah, I think the others, I don't want to comment about videos which I think are unfortunate. Some are old, some you can see that this is the doctor just to really spell. And unfortunately, the propaganda drive from the other side has been on high speed. And that's why even ourselves now as members, we speak the language of the propaganda that has been there. We have all stories of what is in the propaganda, and I don't want to create further tensions, because what is going to help us is diplomatic tension. So we don't want to talk about countries because it does create lots of difficulties. But there's been an extreme propaganda machinery, and you can hear even from the narrative at home that no, indeed it has reached its audience. Our own station, a broadcaster, invited a spokesperson from another country to come and speak on to the nation of this country, something which I don't think it is ever heard, but the media did it. So, yeah, you have your national broadcaster inviting a speaker from another country, and that's it. So that's the propaganda that has been going on. But I think, Chair, because most of the matters are operational, let me really stop there and perhaps allow the generals and his team to assist us.
Sorry, General, there's a point of order.
Thank you, Chair. It's quite disappointing, Chair, first of all, that the Minister have this opportunity to give feedback as to when is our soldiers coming back, when is the bodies and the injured coming back, and she doesn't get that opportunity. She doesn't take that opportunity.
Should we not wait for... Should we not wait until the answers are all given? Maybe your questions will be answered.
No, she's the Minister.
They are all answering as a team.
Yes.
Can we allow them to answer? With your permission. Maybe your questions will be answered.
Okay.
Thank you. Once they've answered. General, please.
This Honorable House. The fact that our department is unique, that we have got the accounting officer being the Secretary for Defense, calls for the Secretary for Defense to come and account on governance issues to this committee. I've heard that there had been expectations, and I honestly wanted to say I had been always open to both the Portfolio Committee on Defence and the Joint Standing Committee on Defence when there is a need for us to interact. I've also said to the Military Command Council that we need to invite this House so that at least there is a common understanding in as far as our security architecture is concerned, because I indicated earlier that security is our collective responsibility. Chair, having said that, I've learned quite a number of things with regard to the questions that had been asked. The first one, maybe that I will have to try and respond to, which had been persistently being asked, is when are we going to get the remains of our members back? In one sentence, tomorrow. Having said that, allow me once again to say, coming to the issue of whether we are adequately resourced, trained, and equipped, I will respond to this in three ways. The first one is that this House and the honourable members are quite aware that we have had interaction with regard to the future that we want to build together. We have also then, after the advice from the honourable members of the Portfolio Committee and the Joint Standing Committee, went and devised a plan that we named the Journey to Greatness, so as to respond to the issues that pertains to the security of our country. Honourable Chair and honourable members, I think at this moment, when our country is mourning, maybe we should have a session that now addresses the challenges that this organization called the South African National Defence Force is facing. Because it was in the interest of both the Portfolio Committee and the Joint Standing Committee on Defence to say, we will be your mouthpiece when it comes to issues of this nature. We really appreciate that gesture. And that is the reason why I think maybe, because this is a very important and crucial issue that is being raised, we need to engage once again. Having listened to that when we came up with the Journey to Greatness, at least we understood that your effort hadn't been in vain. Because we have received indications that the honourable members had agreed that indeed there is a need for us to build the defence force so that going into the future we may not face challenges that we faced previously and today. You have made it a point that the announcement that the defence force budget must at least be 1.5% of the GDP. And that is as a result of your efforts. So in that way, I hope and believe that when the tempers are so high, when the emotions are so high today, our people out there wouldn't expect that us as the leaders are going to be grappling on the matter of saying, yeah, you have failed because you were not properly funded. I want to answer this one again in the manner that I would say, when it comes to our contribution to SADC mission, all the pledges that we have made, this country managed to give what had been said we would provide. And there hadn't been a shortage. Over and above, we have gone beyond the pledges because we felt that security of our people is paramount, and we have put assets that had been pledged so as to protect our people. And in that way, without saying quite a lot in terms of what is it that is there on the ground as per the security of our people, yes, indeed, we have increased our ability for intelligence collection. We have had our members becoming part and parcel of the mission assessment team of intelligence. That is the term that is less offensive when talking about intelligence. So the MAC had been created with the assistance and help of members of the SNDF as part and parcel of the SADC forces. So on that note, our people must be aware that we knew when things were happening as to what is it that is happening. But what is important is that when we were deployed under the SADC mandate. And whatever we pick up, there were times when we even informed our host of the movements. But those movements were outside our area of operation. And the only thing we could do is to try and inform them and say, this movement might influence and affect us going into the future. And they dealt with it in the manner that they dealt with. So we, as members of the SNDF, had all what was required for us to provide. Coming to the issue of whether our members had been really properly trained, I will indicate that for every mission, before any deployment, prior to being handed over to Chief Joint Ops, there is what we call combat readiness training. And this training takes place in various units and services do combat readiness training. Then they provide the combat readiness certificate. Part of it are the exercises that take place in Luatla. Those exercises are meant at least to determine how ready are your soldiers in carrying out the mission that they are required to do. After doing combat readiness training, Chief Joint Operations then receives the soldiers, and these soldiers are then put through what we call mission readiness training. And this is the training that is tailor-made specifically for the type of the mission that they are to conduct. And indeed, this grouping that went there, they went through combat readiness training, they went through mission readiness training. And it was not for lack of training that we suffered casualties. Being a soldier, I will share with you that most of our casualties did not come as a result of close combat. It came as a result of indirect fire that was directed and DF'd to our positions. We then realized that, indeed, some of the things that are happening are things that, is there anything that we can do to avoid that? Yes, indeed. We increased security of our people, both in terms of intelligence collection and in terms of how do you then counter this bombardment. The bunkers were created, which is the logical thing that soldiers will do. We then said, are the bunkers that are available sufficient? And then they developed them, fortified them, because we realized that this is the nature of the warfare that we're going to face, and therefore the bunkers that we had to be fortified. And you, as I said, we train as we fight. And when we learned that we need to do that, we fortified. So our members had been resourced, they'd been properly trained. We have done everything that needed to be done in order to protect those that were in the battlefield. The next issue that Chair and honorable members that I would like to touch on is the issue of security and security in terms of soldiers having cell phones in the mission area. We said technology is a friend and technology can be our enemy. And we're not going to really say cut your youngsters from being interactive with technology. But we went out almost 5 years, if my memory serves me well, to come up with the instruction that now determines and rules on how people must use this technology not to be a threat to our security. So that instruction spells out when can you make use of your phone. nowhere have we encouraged our people to go and take pictures like the James Bonds. We had never, and in that instruction, we had put things that need not be done that will jeopardize their security, because security of an individual also endangers security of the entire team. Let me just digress, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, to say that with the current technology, I might use my phone very innocently to speak to my loved ones at home. This, for me, does not jeopardize security. But immediately I use that phone, my position had been actually compromised. And anybody who wants to know where I am or the vicinity of my headquarters will pick up that it means if the chief is there, therefore the headquarters of this entity is at that particular point. So I am saying it is not part of what we teach them, it's not part of what we have instructed them, but in each and every situation you will find people doing things. And most of the time, when we pick that up, we indeed punish or we put measures to say, if this is what is happening with regard to phones, on this particular front, no cell phones. But then, when you do that, you are depriving yourself of the ability to get part of the information that comes informally, because intelligence does not only come through the direct line. So, honorable members, I just wanted to touch on that particular part because it is not what we have instructed them to do. I will not, Chair and honorable members, waste your time in trying to define whether ours was a peacekeeping or a peace enforcement, for this had been said several times. And now, Chair and honorable members, I also want to try and venture on that our role in the DRC in current dispensation as to the current situation. Currently, the presenter just touched on there is currently no fighting, let me put it that way, in and around Gom. Chair and honorable members, that does not mean that things may not change, because war is a fluid and dynamic circumstance. So the issue that I also wanted to touch on is that this is maybe the time that one will have to raise this matter of emotions once again. Emotions in the sense that the soldiers that are deployed are not only members of their families, but they are the defense. We spend more time with our soldiers, and this organization is in mourning. And at the same time, we are doing everything that we are supposed to do, and we will do everything to support the families. The Chief of the National Defense Force, on the eve of this, issued the instruction to both the chaplaincy and to the workers to say, we don't want members of the deceased, families of the deceased, to get this message by the media, and therefore we sent members to go and inform the families as well as give support to the families. We went further and said, be of value to our members. We have created a structure within the Defense Force that is very informal. First and foremost, I want to underline that it's an informal structure. but we have tried to formalize it by virtue of the wives of members of the Defence Force had come together as the Spouses Forum, because most of the people that are deployed are males. Then their wives are therefore supported by the Spouses Forum. We have got a good number of females that are deployed. They are equally supported by the Spouses Forum. And that is something that one needs to underline, because it is not the Spouses Forum deals with the wives of the deployed members. The Spouses Forum deals with all the members, the spouses of the members that are deployed. So the Spouses Forum, as we talk today, they are distributing whatever little that is required for those who will be visiting the families. And that is just the gesture that they make. And the department is still considering what is it that in the formal structure need to be given to them. So the support structure that we have had been deployed to go and support the families. Chair and honorable members, I'm trying to check on the duplication of some of the issues that had been raised.